Well, Brian, I told you not to aggravate me. You always have to have the last word here, but I'm going to take it easy on you, Deka. You tickled me earlier today before we went on the air.
Come here, let me tickle you.
No, you tickled me in a humorous fashion.
Why doesn't any wrestler tickle his opponent? It would throw him completely off guard.
That used to be a thing that sometimes a babyface would do to the heel but nevertheless, you humored me. Well, you didn't humor me. You made me laugh. Now
Did I tickle your funny bone?
You tickled my funny bone is what you did, and it was standing up all the way. No, you retweeted a tweet from some other Twitterer. I don't know who the guy was. Oh, God damn it. Earlier today, at Command Central, you retweeted a tweet of a guy that tweeted the YouTube clip of me and the promo I did on Sunshine that we've talked about here on the program. We've talked about my days in Dallas world-class wrestling. My days, actually my 6-month sentence. And we've referred to it, and I watched it again for the first time in years and years, just because it's 3 minutes long, and it didn't take a lot of time, but we got the point across. And I realized I've not really told the whole story. I've talked about the lines I'd hit her with and the promos we did back and forth, but the story of this specific promo and or why we had to do what we did to have a match that we kind of didn't really have, but it was one of the feature events on a sellout Star Wars show at the Tarrant County Convention Center. Should I go on?
You should, but one thing, and I don't know if we've ever done this before, and my apologies to anyone who already knows all this, but there are a lot of younger listeners, a lot of new listeners, and a lot of people who, even if they're into world class, they may not get past the Von Erichs, the Freebirds, Gino and Chris.
We forgot that not everybody's like you and me and knows everything that's ever happened in wrestling.
Sunshine, for a brief moment there, was a major star in world class. She did what I think is the greatest promo any woman has ever done in professional wrestling after she broke up with Jimmy Garvin, or however you want to put it. But it's not just you doing a promo against a girl. There were no girls. She was the girl.
She was the girl. And see, that's the thing is, again, it's hard for the people to understand, but Sunshine had started briefly as the valet of Jimmy Garvin, and then Precious came into the picture, and as you mentioned, the breakup, and then Sunshine began seconding the main event baby faces against Jimmy Garvin, and then branched out when that run was over with. On the babyface side, obviously the Von Erichs were kings. And at the time we were there, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers, the Fantastics, were the other baby faces that were really over and really popular, and Sunshine. And when they would bring, like they put her with Kabuki, who had been a main event baby face there at one point. More on this in a minute. And when they brought Hercules Hernandez trying to make him a baby face, they put him with her, because they loved her. And meanwhile, again, we're talking about it on the Mid-South reviews that we've been doing in my date book and going back 40 years. I was different than, in Mid-South, I was different than Skandor Akbar, the manager they'd been used to. Ex-wrestler, tough guy, Arab, oil magnate, or wherever Ak said he got his money from. And in Dallas, they were used to Gary Hart, and Gary it was brilliant, but Gary had been there 15 years on and off, right? And also, yes, he was evil and obviously a repugnant asshole who tried to, but I was this fucking smart-ass punk kid, blah, blah, blah. It was different, and they knew they could whip me, but we didn't have as much physical heat in Dallas, but so it was a different kind of thing. And when she had Scott Casey for a while, I didn't mean that in a vulgar way, but and Scott Casey had something going on with the Midnight. So the point is, our guys kept colliding. And then at what was it, toward the end of April, remember I mentioned they asked me to start coming to the booking meetings, which
Yeah.
at first I was like, well, you want me to what? I was, oh shit. And then I realized there was 12 people in a fucking booking meeting. Fritz was there. And obviously Ken Mantell was the booker. He was there. But you had Gary Hart, Chris Adams, Gino Hernandez, David Manning, Bronco Lubitsch. I don't know if Rick Hazard was in the room or not.
Any of the Von Era kids?
I was going to say Kevin at least once, no, at least twice or three times. Kevin was there. Mike was never there. I don't think Kerry was there. And then who am I leaving out? Possibly somebody. But point is, it was a crowded room. But and then that ended. This promo that we're talking about, that we're going to listen to here in a second, I've cut you off before you actually got that out, is probably the first part of June, because we were building to the 4th of July Star Wars event at Tarrant County Convention Center in Fort Worth. And this was probably like the week before we gave our notice, because my my contributions to the booking committee, or my involvement in it, it started like late April when they asked me, because, and honestly, it was legitimately a show of respect that here I come in and I've been in business 2 years or whatever. And they think, well, this kid might give us some ideas, because I've been doing the Midnight's finishes with the Fantastics and etc.
And your promos, there's no way that they could have heard any of your promos. And I mean, you hear that, you think this guy really knows what he's doing.
Well, and plus, as we mentioned, I'd got a chance to flesh him out a little bit because the field of competition was small, because the crew was small. So I got a lot more time. But anyway, it lasted about 6 weeks, and we gave our notice, and then they did ask me to come in more of the meetings. But I mentioned at one time for the Texas Stadium thing, in addition to having, the deal with Little John Harris forced on us, I'd pitched a finish for the Flair and Kevin match in the 2 rings, and they went with the old double count out. Yeah, great move.
You managed Rip Oliver that night too, or that day?
Yeah,
not
against
that night, that day.
Yes, that day, that hot afternoon. But anyway, another one of these meetings, because it had become obvious that Sunshine and I had some interest in what were we going to do to each other, with each other, whatever the case, on opposite sides. And I pitched, why don't I do something with Sunshine? And I said, well, you can't have a match. Well, no, I'm thinking, my God, me and Jimmy Hart, and we had a match with and they had a match with Andy Kaufman in the Coliseum. We had the San Diego Chicken did fucking shit. We can do something. Right. And I said, well, also in Texas, it's not legal to have a man versus woman in a wrestling match or box or any kind of, they didn't have mixed martial arts. Just, you can't have a men versus women. And the Texas, what was it? The Department of Labor and Standards or Licensing or whatever the fuck, the Athletic Commission in another name. And so and then also they said, and plus they probably didn't want to put me and Sunshine out there physically for any length of time in front of 12,000 people. But the deal, I don't know if you knew where this stipulation came from. I had seen Joe LeDuc in Louisville one night do a deal with referee Thomas Marlin. And they were going to have a match, but LeDuc had blurted out, and I could beat him blindfolded, or whatever. Okay, well, let's try it then. And they forced him into it, that type of thing. So I say, we did an adaptation of that where it was the Battle of the Sexes. I can't remember the exact verbiage I used to start it. It's not in this interview. We'd already booked it by this point. But I said I could beat Sunshine with one hand tied behind her, but I could beat Sunshine blindfolded. She couldn't even take me off my feet, whatever the fuck. And so the stipulation came in this Battle of the Sexes, this male misogynist pig that thinks that Sunshine ought to be scrubbing the pots and pans. Thank you, Andy Kaufman. And Sunshine, the beloved, the only female figure in world-class wrestling that everybody in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex loves and cherishes. And the deal is, I'm going to be blindfolded, and I'm going to give Sunshine her best shot. And I don't think she can take me off my feet. And if you don't, Sunshine, that I get to take that blindfold off, and then whatever happens, happens. I can do anything to you I want to do to prove the superiority of the male species. And the whole thing is to get me blindfolded, and they called it an exhibition. It wasn't a match. They were scared the state was going to shut them down or whatever. And and then we did the thing that I saw in Louisville with Thomas Merlin and fucking Joe LeDuc, except we changed the perpetrator. As soon as I'm blindfolded and I'm in the ring and I got my hands behind my back and I'm sticking my chin out of it, I'm waving her on like, come on, come on. Bronco Lubitsch is the referee. I think it was Scott Casey or one of the baby faces runs out and jumps up on the apron and draws Bronco's attention, which he's more than happy because he's probably in on it because this is all a conspiracy against me. And Kabuki comes out the other way and takes Sunshine's place in front of me and hits me with his thrust kick that is his finish and knocks me ass over fucking tea kettle. Boom. And then bails out and the referee turns around and Sunshine's standing over me like Ronnie Garvin, right? And she's won and the place went insane. And then I take the mask off. I'm all groggy. I'm laying there and I look up at her and it's Sunshine did this to me. What the fuck? And I had the shock face. And of course, this was my last night in the territory. We'd already started working for Crockett. So I was more than happy to do the fucking job, especially for, I think, the best payoff I had the whole 6 months we were in the territory. But it was just a build every week on television verbally between these two personalities until finally the people were happy as clams that they saw this. We did our entrances. I cut the promo. As I mentioned before, I was interrupted in an unscheduled promo from, who was it, Chris Adams talking about Bruiser Brody on the next show or whatever. And then we did our thing and that was it. And the people loved it. But I had wanted to do something else physically to juice the thing up, which I pitched in one of the meetings. And that's why we're going to get to why this interview happened here. And then we can't just talk bad about each other. I want to do something to get some fucking heat, right? If we can't just come out and punch Sunshine or hit her with the racket, right? They're not going to go for that. But I suggest, what about if you remember the Will Rogers Coliseum in Fort Worth, Brian? It was a rodeo building and it seated like 6,000, but the floor area was massive for the horse shows. And so it was like a bigger building than it should have been.
I'm familiar with the rodeo.
Well, yeah, you know the rodeo. This ain't your first rodeo. Well, on Friday nights every week, the Sportatorium would fill up or close to, and that was the world-class syndicated show or just regular house shows. Sportatorium atmosphere was insane, great. And the periodic Star Wars shows at Reunion Arena or Tarrant County Convention Center or the Cotton Bowl, whatever, they were great. Will Rogers Coliseum every Monday night was a piss hole in a snowbank. The house would be there'd be like 1,200 people there, maybe. Sometimes it was worse than that. In that 6,000 seat building with a giant floor. And they shot the 2-hour Saturday night program that aired on, KTVT, Channel 11, 10 p.m. to midnight in Dallas on Saturday nights, opposite the first half hour of Saturday Night Live, and this show would beat it. And it was the most boring wrestling show in television history, because this was still the old time show they used to do. And people watched it. It was the incredible numbers, but it was like Brian Diaz versus Scott Casey, 2 out of 3 falls, go 30. And then the interviews, right? And occasionally they'd have a good main event. So, but blah. So that's where I used to do my promos, trying to stir people up. And so that's where we were doing most of the work with me and Sunshine. And I said, why don't you have some Girl Scout or small female child come out and present a bouquet of flowers, maybe for the award for being an inspirational figure, whatever the case, to Sunshine, and let me come out and snatch them fucking flowers, and I'm going to smash them against the interview set they have there or whatever. And Sunshine grabs the flowers, and we're doing a tug of war, and Mark Lawrence gets in the middle, and Sunshine yanks the flowers away, but she falls back and she hits her head and knocks herself out. And then I can blame Mark Lawrence for knocking Sunshine out with his microphone and being clumsy. But then I can do the promos where Sunshine at Star Wars. You think you saw stars the last time I saw you? Well, you're going to see some more, right? Oh, God, you can't hurt Sunshine. And at one of those meetings, I think it was Gino Hernandez. I said, well, what can I do to her? And Gino said, throw a drink in her face. Because he was in a nightclub every night. I guess that was like in the old days, the old French people that slapped each other with the fucking glove. They throw the drink in each other's face. I said, how am I going to throw? I'm thinking, what the? And it was decided, yeah, well, you come out, interrupt her, and throw a drink in her face. I said, let me work on this. Why the fuck do I have a drink, right? I'm coming out with a suit and a tennis racket like I normally do, potentially. Why would I have a goddamn drink that I've never had before? Where am I going to get? Am I going to stop? But wait a minute, let me lean down at the ringside desk and get this Coke here. And I thought, what is the context? Why would I just come up with that? So what we worked out was basically Sunshine would do a promo where she started talking about how hot she had gotten, about the things I'd said about her, and how hot that I was making all the people in Texas. And she was going to figure out some way to settle out at Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. Right? Just say that, Sunshine. Just say, I've made you hot. You can't say pissed off on TV anyway. I made you hot. And then, since we're having this battle of the sexes, instead of my suit, I come out wearing a fucking warm-up suit that was in the 80s was all the rage amongst fucking nerds. And like I've been working out, and I got the tennis shoes on, and I've got my tennis racket, but I've also got this big yellow Will Rogers Coliseum drink cup that they sell the drinks in. Like I've been working out, and I got a towel around my neck, so it doesn't seem ridiculous that I'm carrying a drink in. They can't see it coming. There's no dramatic foreshadowing here. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I understand.
So
no glasses on either.
Well, because I've been working out. What kind of nerd works out with glasses on, right?
Jim
and
Cornette.
Also, it's another one of those places where there wasn't a lot of people walking me through the crowd, and I didn't, thought I'd rather take the barefaced shot just if one came. But nevertheless, this is a point I wanted to make, and then we'll start listening to this thing finally. But this is an example of not only if you don't listen to what the other person is saying to you in the ring when you're actually doing the thing in front of people and on tape, instead of what you've just agreed to, beforehand in a locker room, then you often find yourself in deep shit because somebody's got a zinger on you and you just have a comeback. Because I said, because I'm not trying to say I laid this out, but they're asking me to go to the booking meeting. I came up with the goddamn deal. So I'm telling Sunshine what it is, right? And she's fine and happy with doing this. Because
You mean
Well, go ahead.
it wasn't Ken Mantell saying, "Hey, make sure you go out and get some workout gear. Make sure you make this all make sense."
Oh, come
We
on.
always hear he's the mastermind of world class. He was the booker.
Quit. Just quit. So I told her, I said, you say I've been making you hot and you have made the people in Dallas hot and blah, blah, blah. And then start talking about, the other shows coming up and I'll come down and it's not my time and I'll interrupt and I'll give you the patter about, why I've been working out and I'll just, jazz it up a little bit. And then I believe she was going to say something about, see, this is how come I get so hot or something like that, to reiterate that. But instead, when I did my whole patter, which was kind of like a combination of every boxing interview you hear, ahead of time. Yeah, I'm moving good. I'm breathing good with little Muhammad Ali. And, I've been doing pull-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing push-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now. That's where I came up with that when I used it later in fucking Crockett. And Richard Simmons, personal friend of the Cornette family, has been training me, all that stuff. I do my patter. She says this is why and does something else. And then I get into the deal where I'm going to apologize because, I've wronged everybody and I've made you so hot and I'm here to apologize and to cool you off. And I threw the drink in her face, as is the basic premise. We didn't have a script. We didn't write anything down. We just talked about it. So when we go out there, my closing line for to be the male chauvinist pig is that I'm going to prove to you, sunshine, it takes a good man to beat you, but it don't take him long. And she picked up on it and she said, well, hey, Cornette, if it takes a man to beat me, you better bring one with you. Ooh, so I turn and we milk the fucking people a minute, and she didn't know this one was coming, but I had to well, I couldn't let her. It's Dangerfield, right? Except I changed it from the New York Times. That's where I said, hey, listen, darling, you've been on more street corners than the Dallas Times Herald. Look at that fucking costume you got on. Oh, and that fired her up a little bit.
You hear
right?
the audience gasp a little bit.
Yeah, and then we do the deal we're supposed to do it. I throw the drink and I run out, and she screams, and the visual is great, and she's speechless, and we're in and out in 3 minutes. That's pretty much the story behind that. And then I've already told you what we did in the actual match, and that was there. I think there was a double main event that night. We were the feature attraction, and we may have been the second most anticipated thing on the fucking show with the Star Wars event.
Let's go to the audio. We have it here. It's on YouTube if anyone wants to check it out. Jim Cornette's infamous promo on Sunshine. A couple things about it before I play it. Because of the look of the TV, and specifically this clip, the red ropes, Full House, it's almost the best equivalent to the look of Raw now for any wrestling show back then.
Well, but now hold on, Full House. That's just what they shot. There's plenty of room in the Will Rogers Coliseum.
Well, it looks full just based on what they're showing you. Wherever they have people,
the thing is so goddamn big, the far ends of it, you could have another show going on.
My other favorite thing is David Manning. Because he comes out with you, and then he quickly goes from standing next to you to standing between you and Sunshine with just his arm out there. But at one point, and it may be the line, it may have even been before that, you say something and he goes, all right, that's enough.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. And then Mark Lawrence, like, okay, McCornette, that's enough. There.
plus, got to recognize Mark Lawrence was a wonderful guy. He was a pastor or preacher of some kind locally. If folks know that's not my expertise, so I don't want to mislabel him, but some kind of a man of cloth. And he also was like the more clean-shaven, younger, more religious version of Reeser Bowden, in that you felt like if you set him on fucking fire, you couldn't get him to yell. And so when you hear the people were used to him. And so when you hear him go, well, I've never seen anything like that. Mark, wonderful, wonderful human being, Mark Lawrence.
But the charisma of a very pleasant funeral director.
Yeah, there you go. You know, as a matter of fact, at first I'd taken him but then I met Paul Bearer and I said, fuck, Percy's got so much personality. Maybe I've underestimated the funeral directors. But anyway.
But let's go to this audio. Jim Cornette's infamous promo on Sunshine from World Class 1985. Let's go to this.
Here now, the lovely Sunshine, who I know is very interested in Thursday night, not only with your thing with Cornette, but also you are very confident as to who will win that bout between Adams and Kabuki and who really does have the best kick.
Oh, I certainly am. I am ready for Thursday. 4th of July is going to be my day. I've been waiting for this a long time. I've been getting pretty hot at Cornette, and I think I'm not the only one who's been getting hot. And I think maybe it's about time somebody took some of those words of his and shoved it right down his throat. Because he's got a big enough fist, a big enough mouth to fit both of these fists, and we might try it out. What do you think?
Okay, hold on.
She's good.
She's good. Exactly. I felt bad for her because she said he's got a big enough fist, or he's got a big enough mouth to fit both these fists. But she seemed vulnerable also. She wasn't coming out there like one of the modern day superstars where she's 5'0" and 90 pounds and is coming out like Bruiser Brody. She didn't claim to be a wrestler, and she wasn't, she was just this feisty woman that was going to stand up for what she believed in and stand up for her rights and blah, blah, blah. And she seemed vulnerable when she was out there because she wasn't a braggadocious public speaker, but it kind of worked for her. But that, as we said, that was kind of the setup there. And then they're going to try to keep going in the direction that they had planned when some asshole breaks in an unscheduled fashion.
You're right. And also on the 4th of July, Chris Adams is going to face the great Kabuki. And I think I know who's got the best kick, but I think everyone else is going to be a terrific bout. It's not...
And now she's distracted. Wait a minute. Well, no, I mean, keep going, but
I heard you say, wait a minute.
Well, no, she's distracted. Wait a minute. There's somebody coming that way is what I was trying to convey.
Coming out with your yellow cup, and of course, David Manning right behind you.
Yes.
Cornette is arriving, and Sunshine, let's try to ignore this if possible.
And you know what? I just want to stop it here as you're going by. There's still like this is what I missed. There's still old men at ringside.
Oh, yeah.
And those guys, those guys have been going to the matches like every week for 20 years, 30 years.
Oh, no, they fucking were big fans of Wild Bill Longson in the 40s.
How stylish. What's the matter, Cornette? You can't wait till the 4th or what?
Look, I'm going to try to remain cool. I don't want no trouble. I just want to tell you that I'm looking forward to the 4th, too, because I'm ready for you. I've been doing push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now. I've been in serious training. I got my training clothes on now. You know about Richard Simmons, personal friend of the Cornette family. Besides that, I'm in the best shape of my career. I'm moving good. I'm breathing good, and I'm all ready for the 4th. I hear you're in fighting fit. Well, after the 4th of July, you're going to be fighting for air and fit for nothing, because I'm going to show you that it takes a good man to beat you, but it don't take him long.
Hey, if it's going to take a man to beat me, then why don't you bring one with you?
Okay, hold on.
David Manning is perfect because he has his hand up, but he always has to be a baby face, so he kind of smiles as he looks at you after she says that.
Well, and here's the thing. When that came up, you heard the people, right? Boom! So I immediately paused because if I'd have rattled right back at her, they wouldn't have heard it anyway, and it would have fell flat. And also, I bow up backwards a little bit, and I knew the handheld was on the right of me. So I turn, not only so the people in the building can see that I've been taken aback, but also so that handheld that's on can see my face. And then as the fucking audio from the crowd is coming down, that's when I come back in and don't rush the punchline until they're going to fucking hear it so I can get my ooh, which you can continue with now.
Did you ever deal with handhelds in the ring before World Class?
Oh, no, not in the ring. In Memphis.
For promos and stuff, I mean, you know.
Well, no, not for anything. The thing about it, in Memphis, they had it was all in the TV was in the studio, so they all the cameras they used there were at the time were studio cameras on rollers instead of handheld. And then at the Coliseum, it was Ken Parnell at ringside with the handheld that they had bought, but he didn't get in the ring because he, also had all those fucking wires of the day hanging off of him. And Mid-South, they didn't do a lot of handheld shit, nothing in the ring. So yes, this was, when we got to the world-class production, especially at the Sportatorium, and they were right over our shoulder, that's where I started doing the pre-match instructions from the manager for fucking real, because they could actually hear it. And also, they would shoot us more because they knew what I was doing. But we digress, or I do.
Look at big mouth, huh? Big mouth. Let me tell you something. You've been on more street corners than the Dallas Times Herald. Look at that outfit you got on.
Let's not have any more of this if possible.
Wait a minute,
Let's not have any more of this.
Yeah. And he's like, he's a preacher. He's scared because he had also been the one doing the interview when I said Sunshine's real name was Virginia. They called her Virgin for short, but not for long. And the night that I said, I don't know how to describe Sunshine, but I wish I could say the word slut on television. So they'd have to bleep me so the people would wonder what the fuck that I said.
I want to say one thing. I'm going to be nice, and then I'm going to go. I heard you say that I'd made you angry, made all these people angry, that you were hot at me and everything. I didn't mean to get you so upset, and I just figured that I want to apologize. I'm sure all the people will accept my apology. I didn't mean to get you so hot, and I would like to take it upon myself right now to cool you off.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I've seen it all.
And leave it playing leave it playing because I just want to say you're hearing Sunshine screaming, but she's saying nothing intelligible, and that's the point.
Sunshine, obviously, in the same mood that you and I will be had that happened to us. I've seen it all.
Bless Mark Lawrence, but the people were pissed. They were highly upset about that type of thing.
Is that your favorite thing that you did in World Class?
Yeah. Because also we did the other stuff. I mean, Sunshine got a few in on me as well before the finish that we did a deal in, I think it was in Will Rogers in Fort Worth also, where early on in the thing where I squared off with her and she took her shoes off like she was going to fight me or whatever. And I just fucking pointed at her and looked at the people like, what the fuck? And the previous Friday, we'd gone down to the Sportatorium and I'd taught her how to arm drag me. And goddamn, that ring smelled like mildew. But anyway, so I point at her and I turn around like, look at this girl, thinks she's got it. She grabs my arm and gives me the big arm drag and the people go crazy. Oh shit. And I'm shocked and all that stuff or whatever the case. So that was fun. Yes. And the promos too.
Did you realize that spoiled you when you started working with Baby Doll?
Well, I'm sure if we'd have had a chance to get more physical at Sunshine at some point or another would have potatoed me, but she didn't nearly have the force or velocity or mass or any of the other astronomical terms that I could use that Baby Doll hit me with. So
that's the thing. When I first heard you tell that story, it was the funniest thing. And I'm like, man, what a story. And then I saw the video. I'm like, man, she punched him as hard as she fucking
good
could,
Lord.
right
Well,
in
no,
the back of the head.
That wasn't even the worst. I got over that in 3 or 4 days, but the fucking dislocating my jaw in St. Louis, it still clicks every once in a while when I try to yawn and pop my right ear on the slap that was supposed to miss me. That's why I didn't move. She came toward me. But yeah, so Sunshine was easier. Well, like I said, we didn't do that much physical stuff, so we didn't have the opportunity to potato each other.